our mutual friend Ty sort of connected us, and he told me that you're running for city council.
That's right.
Yeah. So what I'm really interested in is really seeing what people are passionate about and why they chose to do that. So I just want to know, like, why did you want to run for city council?
Well, a lot of it started because I've always had my own thoughts about the things that go on in the city, and I know that there's a lot of people who don't understand how their city works, and they don't know who to talk to when they have problems, and so a lot of that comes from that, just my will to sort of translate those fears into something tangible.
Mm.
And I've always been pretty good with memorization. You know, I've always wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say I should. I guess when I debate, I get pretty fired up.
Yeah.
And so it just seemed like up my alley. And when I see things like in November, there's going to be a sales tax increase.
Okay.
And things like that people just would normally just write off and be like, well, you know, I'm sure the city council has the best interest in mind for us. But a lot of people don't realize that the political atmosphere everywhere is changing. And so a lot of people, you know, are self-interested, and they would use that to their advantage. And so I think that since I have the ability to interpret things and understand things well enough, I think it's sort of my duty as a citizen to help out people that can't, and inspire others to get to the same point where they feel confident in taking charge to help out with their local governments, with their cities, with people who need their help.
Yeah. Okay. And when you said the 4% sales tax, is that for the city, or is that for California, or is that for?
Okay, so
Yeah.
Oxnard, the city council just announced basically that they're going to put on the ballot in November a 1.5% sales tax increase.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be used to basically pull Oxnard out of the hole that it's been in. Most residents are kind of aware that there's been mismanagement for several years.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other things that people are worried about. They don't know where their money's going. And the way I understood it is this tax would last for about 8 years.
Okay.
And the way I see it is just, why would taxpayers promise things that they're uncertain of where it's going to go, where it's going to come from?
Yeah.
And
So in the proposal,
mm-hmm.
there's no clear direction of where the money's going to go to.
So one of the weird things about it is I haven't been able to locate the measure.
Yeah.
And I've asked other people if they know where it is, and they've directed me to places it might be, and I've investigated a little bit. I still haven't been able to find it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're overwhelmingly happy to give out ones by Aaron Starr, who happens to be a big name in the city. He ran for mayor last candidacy, last election season.
Yeah.
And so they're happy to put his up, and his are there, easy to find. But the language that comes from city council seems to be a little difficult. You have to actually dig, try to find it. And the way I see it is, if we can't take that apart and find out where it's all going, everybody's still shrouded in mystery. Everybody's just running around wondering what's going to happen. And I think that just speaks a lot for the fact that we don't have as responsive of a city government as we could.
Okay. And going like past the city and going to like federal government, or the way things are going, I think it's becoming more like of a socialist. You know, the younger crowd seems to tend to do that. And I definitely don't. I don't know. I don't agree with that, because I think government should be limited. Yeah.
Well, that's a big debate. I mean, that's one of the biggest things in political science, for one thing. I'm a political science major.
Okay.
I've always been very interested in it. I feel like sociology, philosophy, and political science, they're great windows into how the world actually functions. And when you can put yourself in those positions and pull yourself away from emotions and think of things logically, you can kind of calculate how much things benefit certain people.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're saying about the I forgot how I got into that. You asked me socialism.
The younger generation.
So it seems like socialism is big on people who don't have a lot, or they see people suffer a lot because they don't have a lot. So socialism is big with younger folks because a lot of them have grown up in an era where you don't get a lot of pay for how much you do, And there's a social media network out there that's happy to share that stuff. It's easy to do. It's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And so that resonates with a lot of people. They think, well, I'm poor. I mean, even I am. I'm a college student, and running for council is difficult because I don't have as much money as a lot of people do. And
so you're in full-time student. Are you working as well?
During the outside 2 semesters of college, I'm full-time.
Okay.
And then I try to go part-time for work.
Okay.
Work at an auto parts place.
Okay,
so
cool.
It's difficult, it's not very easy for somebody who's just trying to be involved. And because there is a realistic money concern there, that if you're not prominent and people, your name isn't known, you're definitely not going to have the same advantages.
Yeah.
And so that all plays into a lot of things. A lot of people feel like they don't have enough, and I've struggled with that my entire life because I've seen some people tell you that you got to work hard all your life. Like I'm Mexican American. My grandfather actually came from Mexico.
Okay.
And through the Bracero program.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people who's always told me like there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. And and one of those things is I've seen like how important hard work is. Hard work's important. It's manual labor. It kind of it gives you a sense of working hard for your community, and gives you a sense of doing something that contributes to other people. Like when you grow food, you see it, that you know what food tastes like. So when you hear it going out to someone else, you're like, cool, heck yeah, that guy's gonna get fed, and I feel like I did something.
Yeah.
And then with payment, you're able to go spend it on what you want.
Yeah.
And that's the idea of like the whole capitalism thing.
And like socialism, they I guess, this is like a very basic understanding of it, but so like socialism, there's no incentive, right, to work or to, because people will be given stuff rather than they would have to go out and make it for themselves.
That's basically the biggest one of the biggest, at least, criticisms of socialism is that it does kill the will to create. It kills the will to basically just work harder than other people for things that you feel you deserve. And that's one of the biggest things about our country is property rights. Like, a lot of people don't have that in the world. And I remember somebody asked me, because I studied paralegal studies.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a lawyer, like I said. And one of the things that a lot of people have asked me is, where does law come from? And I used to say, the typical things you would learn in law stuff, like, it comes from the common law, which is common, like, if you take my thing, I get mad. That's not fair, It's my thing. I earned it, whatever. Okay. So that's how they would have rulings back in the day in Britain and all that. Yeah. Until they came up with the judicial system with parliament and representatives and all those kind of things. It's always been a struggle to create government and create a judicial system. Okay. This is one of the few countries where it's ever been separated. Usually the judicial part is part of the consuls that people would create. So,
and also the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights, like the U.S. is like so beautiful because of that, dude.
Yeah. So the founders, they wanted it to be something that would last. They wanted it to be tangible. Like they wanted it to be adaptable, and they wanted it to be strong. They knew that because a lot of nations have fallen. They didn't believe all the founders were certain that true democracy wouldn't work. Yeah. Because democracy involves people being knowledgeable about what they're doing. And especially in those times, there's no way that people working a farm were going to know what was politically good for the entire country, what would keep Britain from invading or any of those things. So those were real concerns back then. And a lot of people forget that barbarism was prevalent in the entire world. And so when they created the Constitution, and they created the Articles of Confederation first, but it failed. Yeah. And so they created a Constitution, but all of that was because they knew they couldn't make a monarchy because monarchies would abuse it. Yeah. And they knew they couldn't create a democracy because there's a thing called the tyranny of the majority and the tyranny of the minorities. And the tyranny of the majority is when a majority of people can't make a solid decision for themselves, informative, well-informed decision. Yeah. And so that's a big concern with true democracy. So that's why we have to have republic, which is elected representatives. Okay.
And I guess from what I'm seeing too is that it protects the individual, and I think the individual is the most important thing, because you see communism, which is kind of like hive mindset, right?
Sort of, yeah. That's kind of how I've always seen it. That's kind of what people fear of it, yeah. Yeah. And, so communism, a lot of people put socialism and communism hand in hand. Yeah. But although there are communism could be said to be socialism, radical socialism in a way. Both of them are just, unfortunately, it's hard for us to understand as Americans, but the problem with resources is what causes everything. That's what everything revolves around. And so we've created government and we've created resource distribution methods like capitalism and the free market or, again, socialism or communism to aid everybody in getting enough for what they need.
Okay.
And that makes sense if you want to be, what it comes down to is you want to be a utilitarian country that just grows and just builds and just sends, or do you want to have personal liberties to like, oh, do you want to do this and do you want to do nothing? Do you want to just hang out all day after you've already worked hard, you know?
Yeah,
so.
and that's how I see it too. The U.S. is sending jobs overseas, and like we're not making stuff here in the U.S. as much. So
yeah, that's been a big problem throughout history.
Yeah.
We've always we've always had that problem.
But like going back to like our roots and like where, you know, making stuff in the U.S. would be cool.
It would be.
Yeah.
I think that it would instill pride in a lot of people to build something. I think whenever anybody makes something and then they give it to somebody else,
you just feel good.
Yeah, you do. You get all stoked.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing quite like, you know, feeling pride in yourself and like.
And for other people as well in your community and helping out. And then for Oxnard City Council, I think, just a question, are there any things that you see now that you would like to change or that you would like to implement? Or
I think I know a lot of people find this a little strange, but I really would like to promote ESL programs within the city.
Yeah.
I believe that English as a second language is an extremely important tool in anybody's cabinet. Especially here in America, more than 70% of people. No, wait, I forgot. That's correct. That's incorrect. But a lot of people speak English more than 50% for sure.
Yeah.
And it's just a useful tool when it comes to professional life. I mean, when you go talk to lawyers or you go talk to offices somewhere, sometimes they have to bust out a translator. Sometimes they have to have somebody that knows Spanish. And I feel like it would give, especially because I think in this town, a majority of people are Hispanic.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, I mean, working in auto parts and, you know, working with the city, with the commissioner. I'm a commissioner for the Mobile Home Park Rent Review Board. Yeah. And one of the cases we heard was by some Spanish-speaking people. And it just seemed odd to me that it must have been difficult for them to have to go out of their way to find somebody to help them out with the translation, with everything, just the whole process. Somebody has to be there to kind of tell them how it's going to go. And not necessarily that they had to, but I think of those things, you know, I worry about it.
Yeah.
And I wonder that the language barrier is making it difficult for people to kind of like for instance, the political process, they feel like they don't have access to it because they don't speak the language. They don't speak English. And so when somebody tells them, oh, you know, ratifying this junk proposition, something,
They're like,
laws, this and that. Yeah. They get the short version of it from somebody that probably speaks English who's like, oh, yeah, don't do that. You know, they're just trying to do this. And then they're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I think that like it goes back to that true democracy thing. Without people being informed and understanding what goes on in their lives and their communities, they can't really say, oh, I want that, because
they're just not informed.
They're not informed enough to know.
Dang. And how are you coming up? Are you like doing research 24/7? Are you like watching the news? Are you on social media? Like how are you finding all this information? Just like word of mouth, your group that you have?
It's definitely all of those combined, because I only thought about doing, I mean, I've been thinking about it for a long time. Yeah. But the council only gets, well, certain members only get elected on every 4 years. Well, each term is 4 years. And so my district happens to be up, and somebody asked me, are you going to run for city council? And I was like, well, I mean, I don't know. I could, I guess. But and then just like more things started. I started looking into it more. I started listening to the city council meetings. I started listening to the open statements. Every time there's a council meeting, there's open statements to the public. And some of their concerns are just, they want to know where the money's going. They want to know why everything seems to be just unanimous. There's no dissent anywhere. The council just agrees on everything without actually like, and it seems like, I don't know. So a lot of people just are concerned that they're not doing enough. And if that's true, then at least this would give them a reason to feel differently, to maybe care more a little bit. Like, these people, why are these people running for? What's the difference now? And it's that they're unhappy. They're unhappy people. I mean, people in the community are unhappy.
Yeah.
So other people feel the need to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it comes down to, is unrest in a way.
Dang, that's really cool, man. And it's cool because you're passionate about it and you love it, right?
I do, yeah. There's not a lot more I like. I mean, when I was growing up, there's a lot of people who would ask for help and they just didn't get it. Nobody was there to help them. No one's there to do anything for them. And it's even now, like, there was a certain farming community, a farm worker community that got hit with COVID.
Oh, wow.
And they all live in the same place, and there was like, I think 200 of them living there, something like that.
Yeah.
And throughout the community, there was some people who were like, oh, we're trying to get them, this, or we're trying to help them out, or there's petitions all over. But it's just like that will there doesn't seem to be anywhere else. And like, I don't really see the councilmen, gathering people to try to do a common goal, or I don't see those kind of things happening. It's usually just concerned citizens who are like, I need to do something, I guess. So.
And like, how you said every 4 years they're reelected, and are there term limits, like how many years you can be in office, or is it just?
Oh yeah, so that's actually a big old debate going on right now. As I mentioned, that fellow Aaron Starr, he's passed proposals that would augment or change the term limits, and he wanted to have 2 4-year term limits. Okay. And I believe they used to be 3 years or something, which is why he was changing them to begin with. And so he wanted to make 2 of 4 years. 4 years is the same as the presidential, election. And so it just makes sense that certain executives of a city should have 4 years to do certain things they can do, to gather experience before the next 2 years pop up where they have to rerun and run for candidacy again. And so that's kind of how it is with the presidential thing. They have good 2 or 3 years of solid decision making, and then they have that last year of trying to get reelected again. Yeah. And so it's the same thing with ours. So every 4 years they do that, and they have a 2 year. So Aaron Starr wanted that 2 year limit, or the 2-term limit. Yeah. Before they would have to go for a different office. Yeah. And so there's a bunch of weird stuff that happened with that, and it got muddied up. But city council basically enacted their own, or rather they made their own, that would have 3 4-year term limits, as well as 3 other components that didn't have to do with term limits in the same bill. And then they put it forward and put it on the ballot, which we passed in March. Okay. And so what that did is it stopped candidates for office from receiving more than $500 from certain contributors and so forth. So
contributors from donate.
So say for instance, you wanted to contribute $600 to my campaign, you couldn't. And that severely limits people like me who don't have that kind of fund. No corporation's gonna, there's not like I have 100,000 followers who can give me $1. Yeah. If I'm lucky, somebody will be like, oh, this guy's cool, give him 5,000, but now they can't. So it's like, so it seems like almost as if certain things like that are made to cut out challengers to the candidacy. And
we were talking about earlier about how social media really changed the game, where now we have organic reach to the masses, rather than having to worry about being put in the newspaper or TV or these publications. So that's really dope.
It is dope. It's definitely a bright light for people like me, because a lot of people have mentioned through social media, through my Instagram and stuff. They're like, hey, that's awesome that you're doing this. Let me know if you need anything and stuff. And without that, I definitely don't think I might have gotten as much, because I'm not. It's difficult to I have to work, and right now I'm in summer school. It's only 6 weeks, but 2 classes of summer school is actually kind of hard. Yeah, and it's a lot of work, and so doing that with work and then trying to run this beginning of the campaign is it's all very tedious. But I think I'm up to the challenge, and so that's why I challenge myself to do it. And so for even my nominations, to get on the ballot, and this is why I say these kind of things, because I like to show people that if I can do it, you can do it. And there's a lot of people out there who want to run for candidacy. They want to be, an official for their town. They want to help. Yeah. They want to do things that they feel they're qualified to do, or that they at least would like to be qualified to do. Yeah. And that's important. It's important to bolster people. Again, it goes back to the ESL, everything. Everybody has that spark in them that they could do anything, and some people just don't have the tools or the confidence or any of that stuff to move forward.
Yeah, and, we were saying earlier about it's belief and it's faith and confidence and just.
You said one more, I think. Yeah. You said faith. Faith struck me. I thought that was very insightful of you. Yeah. I mean, not insightful. What do you say? Insightful. Yeah, that is it. Yeah. Insightful. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Okay, yeah, but it's very insightful of you.
Yeah,
to see that.
and also just doing it because you're passionate about it and not worrying about the money too, and doing it for the love also. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, that means a lot from you. I mean, I see obviously, what you're doing, and it's incredible. What got you into doing this kind of thing, like meeting people and just reaching out to people?
Reaching out to people, like I really like I said, I like learning about what people are passionate about, and I like seeing what drives them. Like what sparks them or gives them energy, like to what gives them joy. And nice. I just love seeing that, and like I want to share it with other people, and then hopefully they'll see it and get inspiration from that, and then be able to partake in whatever they're doing too. And it's cool. It's just spreading that life, that life energy, inspiring people. So inspiring like is to breathe life into people, and yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, there's definitely no price on inspiration. That's just something you can't get by, working somewhere or doing some manual labor. Yeah. Moving rocks around, you're not going to get inspired. You're going to be like, if you take a step back, look at it and be like, man, how can I do this? How can I change everything about this?
Yeah.
It takes a moment to sit back and look at things, to observe.
Yeah. And I guess what inspires you, like, not even just like politically, but like, like what do you have any like hobbies or passions, or do you have any? What are you doing right now?
Well, majority of what I do now is trying to read up on everything, trying to get up to speed with city council. Like I'm trying to understand how the progressions work between like calling people up and all that. Because if I do become there, I don't want to be trying to catch up all at that time. If I do get elected, I want to understand how that process works. I want to be able to call people. I want to be able to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time I read and I listen to audiobooks a lot.
Any good ones? Any good ones so that you can.
Okay, well, I mean, it's mostly just government and stuff.
That's cool, dude. Yeah, like, what if people are interested, then.
Okay, so my hero in like American government is Alexander Hamilton. Yeah, the guy on the $10.
Yeah,
and he's the first Secretary of the Treasury for America, and a lot of what he talked about was the Federalist idea, and the federal system means that there's different branches or different levels of government that work together to do different things. Yeah. So the way that ours is set up is with a strong central government, strong national government that overrules the states, but the states have their own sovereignty that is separate from the national sovereignty.
Okay.
So the national power can't step over those kind of rights. And so that's still a big deal today, even with like cannabis legalization. Marijuana is a big deal with that.
Yeah.
And that's like the biggest example for people who don't really understand it.
Yeah.
And it's just the nation says no, but the state says yeah. Nation technically says no. So.
It's so crazy how like you can be in California, smoke weed, and then drive to another state and you be arrested federally. Yeah.
Just right there. That's crazy, you can even be arrested federally technically here too, You
can't. Oh yeah, federally. Yeah, but not.
Yeah.
Not
so if just happen to be on the bad side of some federal troop, and be like, "Oh, you're smoking? Get over here!"
Damn, dude.
Taking the '80s back, And so
yeah.
But yeah,
Alexander Hamilton.
So Hamilton, man. Before we used to have a confederacy. I mean, when we first defeated the British, I say we a lot because I feel strongly as an American.
Americans,
I love being in America. I love being an American citizen. And I feel like you have so many opportunities here that you don't have other places. And if we would utilize those opportunities instead of just hanging out watching Gilmore Girls all day or whatever we do, just hanging out.
Yeah.
We definitely, at least even a few hours a day, we could definitely just be a better American race, better area, better place. And it all goes back to that whole thing, from when it first started out as a confederacy, it was the Articles of Confederation that was our Constitution, but it didn't allow for certain powers. Like the national government couldn't hold an army, it couldn't create an army. It'd have to ask for consent and a militia, basically, from all the different states, and then they could build an army to do whatever they needed.
Yeah.
But it wasn't quick enough, so there was uprisings all over the place, and they were like, "Hey, well, this isn't gonna work because we can't quell these things." In fact, there was this one called what's his name? Daniel Shea. Daniel Shea started a revolt, and he started leading his little troops through Massachusetts, I want to say.
Wow.
And he was shutting down courthouses and stuff, so they wouldn't foreclosure on their lands.
Yeah.
And so they shut it down, just how they're doing in Portland and all that. They're shutting down courthouses, and so I'm I'm on both sides of the, like I said, the federal troops are taking people off the streets, and
I've
that's
seen that.
insightful. I mean, that's terrible. That needs to stop. And so, and then when you get these people trying to shut down courthouses and stuff, it's just like the same kind of things they did back then. I feel like it's a little unnecessary because it's not the same idea. They're not foreclosing on those people's lands and stuff. They're not taking away all their stuff, but they are taking away people's liberties, and that's a really big deal. That's why I can understand. I can understand it. I get it. I'm not necessarily saying I support it. I just say I get it. I can always put myself in their position and be like, you know what? These people are mad about that stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, it's crazy how like they overtook property too, right? It's like,
yeah,
that's.
And so that's what's so cool about the Constitution. It gave us all of our civil liberties. It's like, hey, soldiers, you can't be in your house. Then you can't keep soldiers in your house. You can keep your guns, in case we get out of line.
Yeah,
and that's cool. That's awesome. Like we're like, that's just cool that like somebody was smart enough to be like, you know what? We're gonna mess up probably, and these guys need to be like armed and stuff. It's just crazy. Like I always tell people, I'm like, man, because when North Korea was getting all crazy a few years back, and Donald Trump was visiting and everything, we all thought that was going to be a big old thing about that.
Yeah.
I was like, this would be the wrong place to invade. Because there are a lot of people here who, unfortunately, would not be cool with that. And they would, militias aren't too uncommon in places where people, have access to stuff. So.
Yeah. And.
But,
yeah, and I don't know if anything else like that that inspires you or.
Just like the idea, I guess I've always been sort of an efficient person. I like efficiency. It just seems logical to make things run well. I guess what it all comes down to is I've always been sort of a lazy person in a way. I don't want to get up and do stuff. I don't want to be up handling things. It'd be nice if somebody responsible was kind of directing things and all I had to do was put in my share.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not like that. There are a lot of people out there who feel the same way I felt about that. Like, I don't want to do that. Maybe somebody will come up and do it. And I think there comes a time when you kind of realize, like, maybe I have to, or like, not that I have to, but just maybe somebody needs to. I guess I don't think I'm the wisest person. I don't think I'm the smartest person. I know a lot of people won't agree with like my politics. They won't agree with what I say.
Yeah.
But I think they'll understand that through it all, I have a vision and I have an idea of how I hope that people could live together and how. Like I said, we're an industrial town. We have a lot of people here. We have a lot of good stuff going on. And I think if they wouldn't try to, expand too fast and do things that overreach, do things that we're not prepared to do, I think it'd work more efficiently. And I think people would have more to go around.
Yeah.
And just be happier,
Yeah. For the community.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you see that Kanye's running for president, dude?
Yeah, dude.
That's crazy.
Okay. Kanye West is one of my favorite rappers.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite artists.
Yeah.
And ever since he did that thing with Taylor Swift where he interrupted her, I was like,
VMAs?
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I thought it was like, wow, look at this dude's upsetting the status quo. He's trying to
going against the grain.
Yeah, and that's, I feel like you don't grow that much if you're always kind of going with stuff. You have to go against something sometime.
Yeah.
And once you finally do, you start to realize more of who you are and what things you value. And what people you value, what traits you like about other people.
Yeah.
And I think that without putting yourselves in those situations, you definitely rob yourself of gaining those experiences and growing as a person.
Yeah. No pain, no gain.
That's right. That's absolutely right. I mean, you had to get. That's a lot of pain. I could tell. I mean, I got a little gut going on.
No, that's all good, dude. But yeah, consistency. And I like how I watched like the full speech he did.
Cool.
And
awesome.
I enjoyed how he was open to listening to people, like their opinions and asking people questions like, hey, what do you want? Or,
Yeah, I did see that. I thought that was very interesting too. Yeah. I think I think there's a lot of stuff that people say about him. There are a lot of things out there, but I think for him to put himself out there like that is kind of a big deal. And it just says a lot about a person to be courageous. Because anybody could. I mean, when you run for the president of the United States, you're expecting the whole world to just make fun of you. The whole world just figuring out everything that's wrong with you.
Yeah.
But just to have the courage to do it is it's difficult. It's not easy to just go around and ask people like, hey, I'm actually trying to be your leader. I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to be your humble servant in the government. But,
yeah.
But like, you know, a lot of people just don't take to it. I think, like you said, that the fact that he's open to it, I don't think he's trying to be like a serious competitor. He's just
yeah.
I think he's using it as a medium to raise awareness and just kind of try to just entertain people in a time, I think, when they need it with COVID-19 and just. Yeah. But a lot of people aren't entertained by it. They're very, very against it. Yeah.
But like what I see like is they'll take like a small clip of Kanye and then they'll like create a narrative off of that, which is like totally without having to see like the full interview. It's you can bend reality like that.
Yeah, it's simple. I mean, you can just say something simple like, I don't like when women do this.
Boom, that's a clip.
And then, yeah, exactly. Now it's like, oh, this dude's a woman hater. Yeah. You know, now, oh, see, anything he says about women, he just saying that now. And it's a lot of, I mean, and a lot of it could be true. It's always good to be skeptical. I mean, I tell everybody, skepticism is going to save your life, you know, but there's a lot of things out there that just are way simpler than they probably are. And some people try to make a big thing out of it, but.
Yeah, and I also, like, I really try to not take what people tell me, but I'll, like, find the truth for myself. So I'll do the research myself, and I'll go deep into the information, and
it's a rare quality these days. There's not a lot of people that do.
Yeah.
They're happy to just take the first thing they see on an Instagram story and repost it, you know?
Yeah.
And then, there's a lot of things that bother me sometimes when I see it. Like, this one friend of mine posted how the Republican Party is the party of Lincoln and the party of this and Woodrow Wilson and so forth. Mm-hmm. But like, there's different eras in political parties where they shift the ideas, their values, they shift. So, for instance, Democrats were originally Southerners. They were white Southerners who owned plantations and had slaves and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And so a lot of people don't realize that that's how Democratic Party started. And once they kind of lost the Civil War and black people became more ingrained in their society and started holding political office and everything, they became more like against it. They became more what they called conservative at that time, which was more of like, no, the Constitution doesn't say anything about black people. So, you know, that's more of like what we believe and religion and stuff and, you know, our Christian faith or whatever. It wasn't Christian, I think, at the time. I think it was somebody else that was the biggest one. But
because like, there's a term like classical liberal, like before it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Classical liberalism is way different than what modern liberal.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. Okay, yes. Oh my God, that's awesome that you understand that.
Yeah.
Classical liberalism is what we would now call libertarianism, sort of. Okay. Like the Libertarian Party is it's a third party that's lesser known than Democrat and Republican. We operate on a two-party system, which is designed for them to argue with each other and promote the best qualities of each other and keep the nation intact.
Yeah.
So the Libertarian Party is the third party that believes kind of both. And at first, I've always struggled to find which party I believe in because my ethics are so different.
They vary, right? It's like you can be on one side and on the other side. Because they have so many different things in one platform. It's like, well, I don't agree with all those, but I do agree with some of them. Yeah.
And so libertarianism, what they believe in small government with less control on economy and with taxes and such, like less taxes, more economy, more booming. But also they believe that civil rights and civil liberties for people should be protected completely. Like if a lot of them believe, I believe, well, at least from my experience or from my research, a lot of them believe that like legalizing drugs or most drugs to an extent is good because I mean people it's your right to do what you want to do in your home and like all it does is kind of create more problems for the police. They have to go and find out if you're dealing or you're using. Now we gotta arrest you. We gotta pay them more.
Yeah, when you create something illegal, it creates a market for like a black market.
Absolutely, yeah, you got it. So that's what it is. So people see that as a problem, and libertarians definitely see that as a problem. Yeah. Classical liberalism was definitely the economic side of that. Less small government, more money, more economy for everybody. Yeah, that kind of thing. So yeah, exactly. So a lot of people don't realize that those values change over time, and so what used to be liberalism is definitely not.
Yeah.
And so like with FDR when his administration rather, a lot of people think that the president is involved in everything. He's, you know, it's his fault, you know, it's Obama's fault, it's, you know, it's Bush's fault, it's Trump's fault, but it's the administration, it's the current climate, it's the nation as it is at that time. And so it's never just to blame for them. So when FDR's administration was bringing out New Deal policies, it was easy for people to be like, oh, well, he's just giving welfare, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he was a Democrat. So at that point, a lot of like Southerners who didn't like, you know, giving stuff away to people were happy to be, you know, Republicans at that point.
Okay.
And so what happened was, and then even Democrats, they, to appeal to those Democrats, he passed a lot of those things knowing that they would be detrimental to black people. They were detrimental to blacks because for certain things they would say pay certain farms to only make so much. They would call it subsistence pay.
Yeah.
And so they would give you enough to make this much, and then hey, we're gonna do the rest. You know, we'll buy it from you, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But because they didn't need as many laborers, a lot of like laborers would get cut off, and it was mostly farmhands and stuff, which were in the South especially, were mostly black.
Yeah.
Because you know they've been being forced basically to be plantation people since forever. So. So it's just I mean, and so it's obvious when people get mad about like these divisions and how, you know, like the wealth has been distributed. It's a real thing. It's a real problem.
Yeah.
They have all the reason to be upset. But I also believe there's a certain extent that's in the past too, you know, that you kind of have to accept to a certain point, like, okay, yeah, that did happen. It made us this. Now let's move forward from here. Like, let's start working together, try to make up for that stuff, try to make up for that, you know, but
definitely
let's not just criminalize people and just
just
be
not
hateful, you know,
not be like stuck in the past and work towards a better future and like not blame your problems like on the past too.
Yeah,
you can learn from them.
That's
not to take away from the fact that like people were slaves, but still
exactly. It's a big deal. But
that was a big deal.
I think about it all. I mean, my freedom is so important to me. The fact that I can just go to McDonald's right now and get a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
And it's just like this guy was working 16 hours a day, you know, getting whipped, beat, whatever, seeing people suffer. And it's like, how can you even like, I mean, it sucks, but you have to accept it as that stuff happened. And like, always remember, always feel that pain, always take that pain with you, but try not to let it cloud the future, the judgment of the future.
Definitely.
Hold grudges and all that.
Because I know like, we're talking about Ty, and he's Japanese, and his hopefully he's good with me sharing this. I think it was his grandparents, like the Japanese were put into camps and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's like he doesn't.
His grandparents were.
Well, I don't know if it was his grandparents.
But still, he might take.
He
might take personal like.
Yeah.
That sucks, you know, for me.
Yeah, and he could have. He could use that as a disadvantage, or he can just learn from it, and
you could. I mean, a lot of people can. I mean, we all have the right to. I mean, in a way, but it's just like, do we choose to be better, or do we choose to let it be that way or not?
Yeah. Like, do you have any opinions on like the current school system right now? Like, how do you see it?
I definitely think we got to keep the kids safe. I mean, as a college student too, I didn't want to go to attend class either. And I mean, I have less people than they do. Yeah. And I just think that the whole electronics thing with the whole Zoom and all that, getting the kids in school through computers, I think that we just got to address that. That has to be something we do. Like and I understand see, the bad thing is I'm not going to pretend to be versed up on the school system entirely. Mm-hmm. I haven't been in it for a long time. I definitely haven't watched a lot of the meetings or anything. Yeah. But I know that the first concern has to be keeping those kids safe, because COVID-19 could kill any of them. Yeah. And nobody wants to lose their kid. No, definitely especially not. I mean, if we're trying to promise them a future and then we go and let them die, I mean, what better are we than... And I mean, there's a lot of us that are like my age. I'm 31. Yeah. And I feel as if the generation before me didn't exactly do the best at keeping everything good. They didn't exactly. As far as like, as far as keeping politics, obviously it got awry. You know, it just became more of a spectator sport sort of thing. Yeah. Like just the pay got too different. Like they didn't bother to keep up wages with inflation, with the way that the economy was growing. So a lot of us are in these minimum wage situations where we're getting forced out of homes, and I feel like they just didn't keep a good enough watchdog approach on it. So I guess like keeping that, like what would you change? What would you change? Awareness is definitely the first thing. Like everybody has to understand where these things come from and be able to take a step back. And I understand it's difficult because a lot of us are grown a certain way. We're taught certain things from a young age, and that it indicates in the future forever, like what we're gonna kind of be like, how we're gonna gravitate towards. And to break that is difficult. I mean, like my family is Mexican American.
Yeah.
And you know, like I said, my grandfather came from Mexico, but then my grandmother's side is Native. I'm Chumash from that side, so I have a lot of those things against me. You know, like the Native Americans were you know, persecuted so much.
Yeah.
And you know, the Mexicans, obviously, they, you know, big old battle with America,
Right now,
got pushed away.
Yeah.
So then just a lot of things in the history. And I have to, you know, growing up, all I heard about was those kind of things, you know, what these people have done to me, what these people have done to them. And you kind of like go along with it. But I think what really did it, and it's nothing to bash on religion, but when I grew up, I was I went to Christian church.
Yeah.
And it was non-denominational, I guess it would be. Okay, so I guess I've never been good at figuring out which of what religion is what. So if you're Presbyterian but you're First Presbyterian, I don't know if that's a thing. I don't think I've heard of that. Yeah, me neither. So like I've never been good at that. And so my Christianity church was very open, but they didn't believe in saints. They didn't believe in Saint Mary and all that. They believed in the Trinity, you know, Jesus, God, and the Spirit or whatever. And so and I always grew up loving Roman mythology and Greek mythology. I love Greek mythology. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I started to see correlations between them, like how they'd express fire or the beginnings of this and how people got here. And a lot of it was about morality and just small lessons about morality.
Yeah.
And so over time, I was under the assumption that it was just the way that ancient people described their world that they couldn't understand and would set lessons for the future. And so when I was growing up, I always challenged those things, and I just couldn't understand like Christianity. I couldn't accept it. I couldn't agree. There's certain things that just nobody would give me a good answer for. And, you know, I had my stepfather growing up, you know, I consider him, you know, the guy that raised me, you know, he was very, very stern and he taught me a lot about, like, you got to listen to conversations when people talk, you know, because they're going to say things that they're going to expect you to know and expect you to remember. And a lot of those lessons didn't correlate with learning about religion. He would ask me, like, why did you do this? And I would tell him, I don't know. And he'd say, there's no I don't knows in this life. Like, you always know why you did something. There's something that led you to do what you did. There's no just random actions. And I kind of like always took that as like, that's true. I mean, there is something in you that formulated you to do whatever it was you did. Even if you just happen to do like swing with your left instead of your right, you know, you're probably used to doing it because of some whatever.
So you think it's like free will kind of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, like you're shaped how you eventually start to do things. Yeah. And that kind of carried over into religious questions, you know, like, oh, well, then where's God at? And they're like, oh, he's just up there, like watching. And you're like, well, is he though? Like, well,
there's like a man in the sky watching over us. Like you were questioning that. You were like,
yeah, I question. I've always questioned. I just can't accept things when people, because I guess maybe it just roots back to just some people they don't know, or they take it for granted. Yeah, they don't. They do their best, but sometimes I guess you get to a point where you realize maybe what I'm talking about might be right instead. Yeah.
And then like Greek gods, like what interests you about that? Like the Greek gods and those ideas, like those.
Well, I saw first of all, I saw Hercules when I was a kid. Hercules came out when I was a little kid. I knew that whole thing word for word. And, you know, my dad used to try to make me take naps, and like I would just recite the words and the songs.
That's dope.
Yeah, you know, I hated naps. Now I love them.
Yeah.
And so as we all do probably. And then but yeah, dude. And then I thought that was cool, so I read about him, and I realized the story was a little different. You know, he killed his wife and stuff, and that's no fun. So as I read about other stuff, you know, like was it Icarus and all that with the wings, and you know, don't fly too close to the sun and stuff like that. And like, you know, I started realizing more like, hey, these are cool. These teach you like lessons, you know, just like the Bible does.
Like life lessons, yeah.
Like, yeah, and so I'm like, that's cool, man. These guys are smart, you know. And then it wasn't until I was like 30 that I started learning more about like, man, these guys are really smart. Like, that's awesome. These geniuses.
Like, imagine like being in that at that time, like being in that time, just trying to explain the world around them.
Trying to.
Right?
Like, they find new things, and they're like, well, why does this do this? Like, you know, even something simple like gravity, you know, they're just like, well, why does it come back down? What's it? Yeah. Who's doing that?
Yeah.
So that's funny. That's always been comical to me. Been entertaining.
So, like, I guess, is there anything you want to tell, or, you know, for the people? Like, that what you want to do, or what you want to see change, or just your...
The reason I think because a lot of people have asked me what can I do differently than the current incumbent, Miss Brian McDonald.
Yeah.
I know nothing about that man. I know that he was an ex-police chief, if I'm right from his bio. And I've always, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a cop. I know a lot of people don't like cops, but every time I had a problem, call a cop, and they, even if they didn't seem like they liked me, like I know a lot of people get that feeling from cops that like, oh, I'd rather not be here.
But they showed up.
But they showed up, and they're there because they know that that's their job. And you get all these bad ones and stuff, but those are internal institutional problems. Like when you work, like for instance, I work in auto parts, and it's not to say that everybody's perfectly behaved all the time.
Yeah, I know. Like some dudes will like overcharge or like. Yeah, there's like a few bad apples, and
there's always exactly.
Yeah.
And then, but sometimes just to keep the peace, you kind of ignore it. You do whatever to kind of get around it. And unfortunately, that kind of problem is supposed to stay in places like AutoZone or like wherever you work at, like a retail place maybe or something. But when you're talking about people's lives, like that's the kind of stuff that you all have to be accountable for that. There's no like, you don't go into being a police officer thinking, oh, I'm going to live today all day. I might get shot. I might die.
Yeah.
And so when you think about other people like that, other cops, other people who are, who pose a threat within your organization, it's your duty and you got to be courageous. You have to be brave enough to be like, hey, this guy right here, dude, he's not, and whatever. And I think a lot of that comes back to support, because support is the hardest thing to do. Like when you don't have support, now that I'm like, doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
If I get shot tomorrow by somebody who doesn't like what I say.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, hey, why did that guy get shot? What happened to him?
Yeah.
But then if I was me, 10 years ago and I got shot just being some kid working at Walmart at that time,
yeah,
it'd be like, oh man, my family would be sad. My community maybe a little bit, but nobody's going to be like, dude, that's weird. That's bad. That's horrible. Like who is that? They killed that dude.
Because the information is out there. Like people see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that publicity is important because it makes sure that I can stay alive. And when I reach out to other people who have been near me and I start to wonder, hey, what happened to, Jesse Vargas or whatever? And they're like, oh, dude, some guys killed him. We're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, well, let's find out why. Like, what happened? That's not cool. When we stay connected together, we can protect each other. We all stay. And when you have more protection, more people to, to feel. And there's bad protection. There's good protection, obviously. Like there's gangs and stuff. There's all the bad stuff. But good people just don't feel like I feel like they've just gotten way too content and too complacent that they don't pose any real threat to evil anymore. And I think that's one of the things that hopefully, because even my boss, when I told him, I was like, hey, I'm going to run for city council. And he's like, aren't you scared? And I was like, of course I'm scared.
Yeah.
Like, I could die tomorrow. But what's doing something if it's just for you, it's like, it's not for me. It's for everybody. And if I go down with it, there's other people who are going to see it and be like, no, screw that junk. I'm gonna do what he did. I'm not gonna let them get away with that stuff. I'm not gonna let them do that kind of thing to people.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's courage, man. We all need it. It's like that spark you were talking about, the energy, it's just the same thing. It's like,
it's the same thing.
I can inspire you to get up and do something that you're afraid of.
Yeah.
Like, cool.
Like, and when I see you doing that, it gives me the energy to work for my passion too. So just mutual energy exchange.
Yeah. it's worth more than anybody can really express,
Yeah.
Like I always tell people, happiness is so underrated. Like when you find 25 cents on the ground, you find a quarter on the floor. Oh heck yeah, I'm stoked. You get that's man. People should feel that all the time.
Yeah. And I guess is there any way that people can reach out to you or? Yeah,
for now, I haven't got my committee together. I'm still doing my paperwork.
Yeah.
But I'm forming it right now. As soon as I get that going, I'll let you guys know. But right now, I have my Facebook. It's Efrain Jimenez II. That's with the Roman numeral 2 at the end.
Yeah.
And my Instagram's F to the Izzo.
Hey.
Going. It's EFTOTHEIZZO. And yeah, but man, this has been a great thing. You're a great guy. You're a wonderful person.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for for what you do and what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
And I really appreciate you, dude.
Thanks so much
for looking out for the community and to trying the best that you can do to uplift.
Oh, also, just if anybody out there really wants to run, and if you think you have what it takes to make a difference, and all that's holding you back is some courage, just do it, because August 6th is the end of nomination period to get on the ballot, and that leaves 2 weeks, and most people can get nominations from people that they know. I have challenged myself to go door to door and get them from people I don't know.
Yeah.
To meet people in my district, but not a lot of people, are able to do that.
It's the Rona right now.
Yeah, the Rona too is better. Yeah, I know. I have got my little mask right here. And everything, but yeah. But like I said, anybody just have some courage, and it's not a bad thing not to. I'm sure 90% of the world doesn't have the same courage, but
okay, another point too. Even if you fail, it's like you've learned something. You've learned what not to do. You've learned where you stand. You've learned a lot of things. Yeah, that's
definitely true. I mean, this is teaching me a lot of stuff. I mean, just everybody I've met who I've gotten a nomination from, or even not. Yeah. They've asked me challenging questions. They'd be like, "Well, what makes you think that you can do something? Like, what makes you so special?" Or like, "So you want to do this?" But like one lady, she actually she didn't want to nominate me because I sounded too conservative. She said I found it fiscally responsible. Yeah. And I was like, "Well, that's a good thing." And she said, "But in a conservative type of way." And it was obvious that she's like, "Well, I'm not a big Bernie fan or anything, but like, Democrats, a little more liberal. They're a little more, conscious of that stuff." So she asked me like, "What party are you?" And I've always struggled to find that, but right now I'm a nonpartisan voter, and I believe in party politics are when you actually agree with with their platform. That's what party politics are about. If you don't agree with it, then there's no reason to contribute to that party. There's you contribute to yourself. You be an independent voter, and when it comes down to all the important issues, you go in there and vote. Yeah. And then if you feel like one of them lines up well enough with your personal beliefs, but both of those extremes from Republican and Democrat especially, they're way too different. They're separated. They're too separate. The extremes are too different. Yeah. And if you can't see one side as good and one side as having its good qualities as well, then you're really not taking into consideration factors. You're not taking into consideration issues and ideology.
Because then it's my team versus your team.
My team. That's a big deal. Everybody wants to be my team versus your team, but it's just we're on the same team. You just do it different. So that's when people start realizing that, we're all going to be able to move forward.
Get together. Hopefully, man. Like, I definitely see that.
We could do it.
Yeah, we can do it, man.
Yes, we can. Like Obama said.
Shout out Obama.
Yeah, shout out Obama. Love you, man. I voted for you.
Cool, all right, dude. Definitely we'll have you back, bro.
Thanks. I would love to come back at some point, man. To update you guys on everything. Update the constituents and everything. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Corona.
Give me some topics.
Lotion.
Oh. He said lotion. I got the ocean motion. We're gonna go in. We about to go in. I'm about to dive in. Yeah, give me some more topics.
Microphone.
He said microphone. Yo, ET phone home. Yeah, I got the lyrics off of the top of the dome.
Plants.
He said plants. You gotta water it. You gotta grow it. Yeah, and then you gotta show it. Yeah, I'm gotta catching the flow now.
Trump.
Yeah. He said, what did you say? He said
Trump.
He said Trump. Yeah, I'm about to take a dump and then I'm gonna watch the television. You gotta keep your mind open. You gotta see
Michael
both
Jackson.
sides. He said Michael Jackson's because I'ma beat it. Yeah, can't delete it because I'm gonna keep going. Okay, your turn. All
right.
Floor.
Chilling on the floor like it's open door season, doing that stuff, and I got no reason.
Fox.
We out here getting that meat cleaving, doing that stuff, and it's Stevie Wonder, cause I'm wondering where I'm going. Give me another word, cause I won't stop flowing.
Fox.
The fox, like fox on a box. I don't really know what makes him trot, but I know that green eggs and ham is the best, and damn, it's like I'm better than the rest.
Let's go. We got the
word
flow.
Now.
Chair.
Before I get on my foot chair. Sitting on the chair. There's not really much to do with my long hair, but I'm still kicking back. Short hair cat doing that. Yo, I'm bringing that rap back.
Give me some topics.
All right, topics.
I'm the hot pick. Yeah. Let's
Slender
go.
Man.
He says Slender Man, that dude be skinny, but I got the lifting the weight. You gotta push yourself to the limit. No limits. Give me some more topics. I'm trying to catch the flow.
Weightlifting. Weights.
He said wait. I'm about to do it. Put it on the bar and push it.
Adidas.
He said Adidas. I got that 3 stripes. I got that 3 strikes. Go to jail.
Yeah.
All right, we're good.
Zelda.
Oh, he said Zelda. Zelda. Yeah.
Give me another one.
Rail.
Stuff is in braille, yo, it's all embedded. I can't really see unless I try to invent it. A way to see this stuff, and I'm reading the words because I'm blind like
Carpet.
heck. And it's the carpet. Yo, it's right underneath. I don't really know if you gotta see because it's like angle.
Headphones.
And then I got headphones on. No, I don't. That's you. But I still got mine. Another one.
Pen.
It's all in my head like I'm doing the math, yo. And then I'm going to put it down in rap form. And then we're going home to do that one.
Water.
And drinking that water, yo. It's getting me thirsty like I haven't had days. And there's stuff in my throat. It's feeling all cray. But I got to get it out because
It's okay. He said it's okay. You just got to get it out. You can't bet it out. Give me some
weed.
He said weed. That's what I need. Then I go to the crib. Then I go watch the TV because I want to relax.
Netflix.
Kick back. He said Netflix and chill. What do you want to do? I'm going to put on Avatar and then we go to the bar after and we get some drinks.
Football.
He said football. I only play football. Not that American Kano. I play that football like kick it with my feet on the ground. That's what
Terminator.
He said Terminator. I'm a Terminator because I'm a cutter off because I don't need her. Yeah, keep it going.
Tetris.
He said Tetris. I got the blocks. Yeah, I'm on the block. It's kind of hot. It's kind of summer. I don't know. It just keep it flowing.
All right, cool. Heck yeah, Councilman F. New F edition.
Let's go.